Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are back here yet again for another episode of Mount Schmoedown talking about Jason Justice Inman. I'm here with my boys Ryan and Ben, but we are also joined today by Matt and Chris from Spin from the Real. It's going to be a packed house. Before we get started, does anyone have a hard out? Does anyone have to?
Not a hard out, no.
Okay. A little bit long because there is 5 of us. There's quite a bit of matches to go over as well. But the reason why we're doing Jason Inman is I actually reached out to Chris first and was like, we're thinking about doing a crossover with you guys. Who do you want to cover? I thought it was easier that way to ask who you guys want to cover instead of us coming up with someone and maybe you weren't as passionate about. So
Sure.
Why did you guys choose Jason Inman?
Well, we had a few names that we threw out there. I forget what the other ones were, but Inman was just somebody to me where when I look back at like 2016, 17 Schmoedown, like Inman's one of the first names I think of.
He's a staple.
Yeah, he's my God. When he was one of my favorite competitors to watch, and my love for Inner Geekdom came from somewhere. And after rewatching this man's matches, it might have come from Jason Inman, if I'm being frank.
So you said Knapsack, Gray Drake, and Jason Inman, and we were literally like the next week doing Ken Knapsack. So
yeah, and our boys from the Schmoes of the North just had to take Ken Knapsack.
Yeah, they did. They did. That's why I think with these crossovers, you let the guests pick the topic so that they can talk something they're passionate about. Because I don't want to pick someone, and you guys are like, I'm not the biggest fan of them. So this definitely works out here. But no, Jason Inman was one of the first competitors that went 3 divisions.
Yeah.
First
he might be the
out.
first 3-division player, honestly.
Yeah.
He was. Like he came in there by a narrow second because he started his first IG match was in season 4, and he edged out Mike Kalinowski, who did back-to-back IGN teams. I guess mainly if you just look at the chronological release date of the matches, Jason beats Mike just by a hair, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just I don't miss these 5-way Inner Geekdom matches.
Oh my God, neither do
Especially the format that they had, where it was like they did round 1, like
you're
the
out,
first
round
2
2,
rounds.
you're out, round 3, you're out.
Like
Pretty much like an elimination match. Yeah.
That match that Jeremy Johns won, Rachel should have won that match. Rachel Cushing should have won that match, but because they basically reset to 0 after going into that final round, I'm like, oh.
It was like a free-for-all without adding a new competitor. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah,
and that last round was practically a speed round, honestly. It wasn't a simple like whiteboard question. It was pretty much get as many speed round questions and you win. So I'm glad they changed it up.
I'm in I think it was the later half of season 4 and in season 5 when they did these fatal 4-ways and 5-ways, they basically changed the format where it's 8 points if you're in singles. 8 questions in singles, 10 questions in Inner Geekdom. Each person gets their own slice for round 2. I'm like, okay, that works, and then the normal round 3. I like that.
Limited number of questions as well. Like it's not.
Yeah, so it's 3 in round 2, so it doesn't take forever for everyone to do 5 questions. That takes so long.
And it keeps it competitive too, because some of the 5-ways we've looked at even before Inman, like there are some matches to where it is obvious there's a definite winner for whoever does well in the second round. Because most of the 5-ways I've watched, a majority of them have ended either in technical knockouts or like with everyone eliminated before they even get to the 3-point question. Honestly, like it's just, I'm not saying it's shameful. It's just more of like 5-ways is really not the best way to highlight competitors. That's why I like how it was during the one-on-ones during the season 5 and 6.
And at the time, those multi-person matches were, it was also what made Inner Geekdom stand out. Because in Inner Geekdom, we saw a lot of people at once, and they were trying to make new starts out of Inner Geekdom. Obviously, some shined brighter than others, Inman being one of them. And honestly, when I was watching at the time, that was the appeal to me. I'm like, yo, multi-person match? Hell yeah. Like, give me that.
Well, that was also Intergeekdom in its infancy. That was when it was at its youngest, and they didn't have. They were still building up the Intergeekdom side of the roster.
Some of those round one questions in the early seasons, like, God, these are freaking layups. Now in Intergeekdom, those round one questions, those are not easy because they've gone through all the. That's why they had to add movies into Intergeekdom because they were running out. Because as of right now, it is up to 300 movies.
That's what. Well, there's been more added. You know that for a fact.
A lot more added.
About 50 more, I think.
So it's up to 300 in Intergeekdom now.
I thought it was 300 last year, and it jumped to 350.
I don't remember what. I just know it was like around 300 movies now. So I don't know if it went up to 3 or 350. But yeah, we probably won't be seeing a lot of repeats with those, even though they are allowed to repeat questions now. Like they are able to repeat questions. We did see a lot of those last season.
Because with a brand new, it was like Christian Connolly said that season 7 last year was pretty much like a reboot in a way. So every question that had been used came back, despite some people's concerns, or even with a couple of competitors going, "Oh wait, I heard this question like last year." It's like, and questions like, "Nope, it's the new season." So yeah, if you got it last year, that's fine. It'd be hilarious if a competitor in a singles match got a similar question in romance movies they got last year. And last year they got it, and then they miss it. Then it kind of shows you, like, maybe you should not have complained about that kind. Don't complain if you get the same question again. You can slip up.
Do you think that Entertainment is harder than Star Wars?
No.
Star
Wars, to me, is they go like so deep, and you have to be accurate to the T. If you're literally take the Scrimshaw and Dimolanta match last year. A word is not anger. His anger, Luke's anger, lost the match for Scrimshaw. That's that's intense. So yeah, I definitely think Star Wars is going to be my favorite division to watch this upcoming season because of all the There's it was either 17 or 19 total competitors in Star Wars for season 8.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Bring it on. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very fun to watch.
To answer your question, I would say prior to season 7, Intergeekdom was harder in regards to the competition. Okay. Star Wars, there were clear competitors who were higher than the others. I mean, Alex Damon's been champion for how long now? So
2.5 years.
2.5 years. It was like June. So
it was spectacular. It was spectacular in July.
The third, the
collision. He faced Bruce Green. Shout out to Bruce Green. There's a few people that were higher than others in Star Wars, and then Intergeekdom for a while. That belt's being tossed around a few different times. So I thought the competition was like the players themselves and the quality of player was higher in Star Wars until that Star Wars tournament last season. And then we all were like, whoa, wait a second. Like, this is Star Wars is pretty good.
If that tournament really brought into focus, like, sure, the Star Wars matches were spaced apart, maybe like one match every 4 to 5 months, or maybe every 6 months. But once you saw that tournament and the players' knowledge and the love they have of the movies, like, Jesus Christ, we don't need to keep going there. But the Star Wars tournament was pretty much the example, not example, but it was literally challenges thrown left and right, either managers or players. Like you saw these people had a knowledge of Star Wars because the questions didn't confer with the knowledge that they had. And even same with Intergeekdom. Yeah, that belt was constantly shifted around. I mean, that's why Inman is such a great competitor to talk about, because at the time he was the second person to defend that belt. And then the moment afterwards, it kept switching. Mara, Mike, Rachel, Mike.
Before Spectacular, before this last Spectacular, he was the last one to defend the belt. Since he lost it to Mara there, it would switch hands every time. I'm curious to see if Chandru can defend it again, or is Mara going to take it back? It's going to be I want Mara to win, but Chandru has looked really good in his last 2 matches. Like he looked really good against Chance and Smets. So it's hard to say how that one's going to go. So I'm not entirely sure.
Isn't that a crazy ass stat that before Chandru beat Ellison, no one had retained that Intergeekdom belt.
Correct.
Inman.
No one yet. No one had defended
Nobody.
it.
Cushing,
So it
Kanafi,
went Mara.
Smets.
Yeah.
Mike on twice occasions, yeah.
Yes. So what? I think I went Mara, Cushing.
No, it went Mara to Kalinowski, then to Cushing,
Cushing.
then to Kalinowski again, then Smets, and then Chandru. Because season 6, it started off. That belt changed hands 3 times between Mike when Cushing beat him at the throwdown, and then Cushing then Kalinowski beat Cushing at San Diego, and then Smets beat Kalinowski at the Spectacular. 3 separate times that belt changed more hands than any belt during that season.
And that's why I felt like to go back to Ben's question. That's why I thought Intergeekdom was so much more fun to watch and more challenging to watch because the competition was so like there were a few players, like a handful of players that had their hands on the belt throughout that season, whether they lost or they didn't retain it or they were in the title picture. And then now it's Chandru and Ellison's up there, Kalinowski's up there, but no one's touching Chandru right now.
I think it's possible Star Wars could be that this year with all of these hype surrounding these new Star Wars competitors.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, but I'm not gonna bet against Alex Damon until he gives me a reason why to bet against him in Star Wars. He's not shown that to me. That he is unbeatable so far. His one loss is that freaking 5-way with him, Whitwer, Scrimshaw. What was it? Steele?
Steel. Yeah,
Yeah,
Steel.
Steele, Saunders,
Whitwer, Scrimshaw, and Damon. That was the 4.
So I'm like, yeah, that's his only loss.
O'Neal.
And he barely lost.
O'Neal as well. O'Neal, the 5th person in that 5-way. Yeah.
Like he barely that's his only Star Wars loss, and he barely lost because Whitwer got the question that he lost the previous match on. So
And also,
really
got some steals. He got some more steals than Damon did.
That's
so he
what-
got higher points. Yeah.
I don't think a competitor should get a loss in like a 4 or 5-way.
No, that's what I honestly hate about when they do 4 or 5 ways, because it takes away from
Because the winner only gets 1 win. Why
Right.
should everyone else get a loss?
Right.
That's why actually when we did a 3, like I feel the same way about 3 ways. Honestly, that's why when in our family when we did a 3-way with Chris and Toby and Nick, I gave Chris 2 wins because he won it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Hey.
But could you imagine if they did that? Like if they went back and like, okay, so say you're in a 5-way, you get 4 wins.
Like
Instead of 1?
retroactively?
Actually,
Yeah.
that 5-way match with Jared Habon, when he won by TKO, it went on his record he had 4 KOs against all 4 of those people. Like,
Just to be 4 wins.
yeah, well, instead it was just counted as 1 win with just 4 knockouts, which it's really improper, though. I mean, honestly, it should feel like
Keep the same energy for everybody and everything.
Yes.
Like,
But that's kind of what you get with a league that is still developing, figuring out what it is. So
totally.
So, would it be better if like 4 wins and 5 wins were just like exhibition matches?
yes,
I would agree to that
I'm with
because they don't
Yeah.
count against your record at that point. An exhibition match being a 4 or 5-way, go right ahead because that's Patreon match. Patreon matches don't count against it. It's just these are the people you know are best at this category. Let's go ahead and see who's the champ of the category.
I would agree with that. I mean, yeah.
I would have to kind of agree with that too. And also, I think the fact that the Patreon matches were mostly 4-ways and 5-ways, it kind of helped retool and refocus that format. So now, since Christian is considering bringing it back this season, it's going to be a lot more, not just more competitive, it's going to be more structured now. It's not going to be like how it was when Inman started or when we talked about when Brandon and Ben and I talked about Jeremy Johns, where they just had random rules set up on every round. It was either elimination or you had 6 number of questions to answer. You had 8 number of questions to answer. It was like keep answering until you're eliminated or you do buzzers and speed rounds. But now that it's been retooled and refocused, this season's going to look a little better. But regarding with Inman, though, he still did when he was in 4-ways or 5-ways, he still put out a great performance.
He was always top 3 because that first you look at that first one where it was him, Jeremy, Rachel Cushing, Hal Rudnick, and
Michelle Boyd, not Jeremy.
Michelle Boyd.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Like he finished 3rd. He had
because he got opponent's choice, and Rachel's like, "I'm gonna give you Lord of the Rings."
Yeah,
and it's like can't really be mad about that. It's just one of those. And I should say it's something you could be mad about because honestly, that took away from what could be an overall great match. Like, literally, Jeremy Johns versus Jason Inman at that time would have been a great one-on-one match. Rachel versus Inman would have been a great one-on-one match.
We've had so many close opportunities to have Inman versus Cushing, which is sad. We're looking at this because even Jason said when he won against Navarro, he wanted to face Rachel. Like that was the one person he wanted to fight. And even then, when he lost to Navarro,
that's the one match I want, which we could still get. I'm just curious if Rachel is completely against doing matches, or would she do an exhibition match?
I think you might be able to get her to do an exhibition.
Because I'm like, there's no storyline involved. It's just answering trivia.
And see, that's like, even if Christian can get Whitwer to come back for a exhibition match versus Damon, I'd love that because we can put that debate to rest.
Exactly. I mean,
I don't see that happening.
There's going to be those that are going to say, "Oh, exhibitions don't count." Who gives a crap? If boxing can do exhibition matches against boxing, I'm sorry,
Pacquiao and Mayweather.
Yes, or McGregor and Mayweather. If they can do that, and people will still clamor to see that, I still think people will clamor to see Damon and Whitwer in an exhibition, like with Inman and Cushing. Heck, I would love to see Inman versus Kalinowski in a fucking exhibition match to see which one of those two have the top knowledge.
Personally, I think Christian had the right idea. Make the exhibition matches for Patreons only.
Yeah.
That way you only get the people who really care about league, and they are the fans that you want to keep happy. And that's why you would do an exhibition match to make them happy.
See, and I think that's the way you get more patrons. Hey, you want to see this Cushing versus Inman match? You want to see Whitwer versus Damon? It's a one-time event.
I was about to say, once Smets is healthy and able to compete, a exhibition of Smets and Cushing. That's the exhibition I want.
Those are 3 exhibitions. You could be like, all right, I want that. I'm going to sign up for Patreon now so I can watch them.
Seriously, just sign up at the $10 level. You don't need to go anywhere else. It's the best $10.
No, I'm doing $20 starting.
I'm already at the $20 level.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing the 20.
I feel the need to because being able to, because now that they're moving, you can only go in the post if you're the $20 patron. Going into post on a live event is a big deal, especially being an extra show, because you can get a question into a competitor about what.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's $10 extra a month for me. Okay, I go out to eat one last time that month. It's like people that make such a big deal about the $10. I'm like, then don't have Starbucks. Have Starbucks one less time per month. Like
I was going to agree with you there. Yeah, stop wasting your money on Starbucks. To go to a store, stop going for fine groceries, and just get yourself constant ramen noodles. So then you can want to pay for the higher tiers.
The best Patreon value of anybody I've ever seen. The amount of like you get especially this season. We're getting probably at least $20 to $30 worth of content.
Yeah, 3 pay-per-view styles. I mean, Chris said 3 pay-per-views within a month, and then the schedule he has: IG match, Star Wars singles, IG Star Wars singles, and then of course all the constant extra merchandise you're still getting. If none of that's coming through your head, that all this is at $10 a month. What I'm gonna say, wow, you've been spoiled. Like we've all been spoiled if we think if we're gonna complain about that $10 on Patreon, because Christian really could make that a higher tier. He really could.
Like this man went out of the way, because remember initially it was looking to be like you're only going to get 1 match a week and it's going to be podcast from, and then everybody pushed back on that. Remember when he first made the announcement?
I did. I was worried about that. I mean, I understand if you wanted to do it to have some time to rest, but yeah. Oh, keep going, man. I'm sorry.
And then he's like, he saw the pushback. He's like, okay, I guess we can't do that. And I think that's when he realized people actually do care about this story more than I thought. Because by doing that, you were going to lose a lot of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he realized, he's like, okay, let's try this Patreon thing. Oh, people are actually being a part of this. Okay, let's roll with it and see how it goes.
And let's not forget. Oh, you go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Oh, and that's a bit. And sorry, you guys said Jeremy Johns, and my internet crashed. But but that's a big shout out to Brianne Chandler too. And I know y'all did that on her, and like she deserves all the love in the world from us Schmoedown fans because she's the reason why this is where it's at. 1,000%.
Yeah,
So,
and we made sure to say that when we covered her, like I think it was like a month ago, we made sure she's the reason the Patreon is able to be successful right now. She took I think I've heard Christian say a couple times. She was pushing him to do Patreon for the Schmoedown before they started doing it.
Yeah, because it was because of that. She's like, use Patreon because you're gonna get the money you want, and you're not gonna have to sacrifice this stuff like you think you're gonna have to.
No, reach out to your community, reach out to your fans. If they want this, then and that, you set your tiers to what you want, what they want to pay for, and it showed. I mean, despite the different random tiers he has said there, people did especially sign up for that stuff, even for the insane tiers. Like, I mean, come on, how many times have we heard in every Schmoedown recording a patron sponsored question, a patron sponsored wheel, and we see exactly where those tiers are set at. People pay for that, and
Kevin Smets, he's the prime example of patron working. Because remember, he did the pay to do an audition tier.
Yeah, so many other people. I even signed up for that myself, along with a couple.
I've seen part of his audition. It's so bad. I'm like, Kevin, it's so bad.
I give him credit for going all Macho Man. I credit as a wrestling fan. I loved it.
Wait, he went full Macho Man?
Yes, in his audition,
and he's talked about it. He's talked about. I originally came in like Macho
he
Man.
He was going for the Star Wars division. Christian asked him a couple questions. He didn't do very good. So the whole character didn't work. The tribute didn't work. So we sent him down to the fan leagues. I think he did like 2 matches in the fan leagues, by the way.
Yeah, a couple. That was at the time fan leagues were really not as
prominent.
Prominent as it is now. Because when I auditioned,
TKO'd by Parker. He got TKO'd by Parker.
But he kept studying, and now look at him now. I mean, even also Kevin Smets, Andrew DeMolanta. He was also someone who signed up for the Patreon to pay to audition.
He actually made it. He made it.
He's one of the 2 people who paid through the audition who actually made it. Because the other one was Matt Cruz. Who only saw one
no. I thought he was in the Star Wars match when Celebration was in Orlando. Did he pay to?
So he had done a paid audition, and then they met at Orlando.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Excuse me. They had met at Orlando. He expressed interest, and then that following year is when they did the paid. Is when they started.
Got it.
Audition, and he auditioned, and then so he had made a decent impression beforehand. Then did the paid audition, did well, and they brought him in.
Yeah, because Christian has said that in his match against Kelly that Andrew did the whole audition did the audition tier. And even the other higher tiers, like you pay to attend a live Schmoedown taping.
I believe Chandru did that.
Yeah.
I think that's how Chandru got introduced, and then he was in. It was either a 4-way or a 5-way in season 6.
Wow.
4-way.
And I think he lost that match, and then he got a 3-way with Warfather and David Moore.
God,
So
that's a funny match. That is just a fun.
In hindsight, that's a funny ass match.
It is.
Like, oh my god! Just to see where'd those 3 men go? Like, and
2 are out of the league, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then I love how Mark Ellis was like, "I feel uncomfortable by calling Warfather," and he's like, "Yes, War's son."
Man, Warfather was such a good character, but no, okay. Before we get
again, it's not just about character in the Schmoedown.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta know what you're doing.
And also, it's not just trivia. Like, if you know trivia, you can be a little bit boring. Like, that's why I'm not the biggest fan of Adam Collins. I would prefer if his character or personality would be a little bit more entertaining to me or more intriguing. Right. Like, I don't dispute that Adam Collins' knowledge is up near the top.
Yeah.
Like, there is without a doubt that he is. So, maybe getting back on track there for Jason Inman. 2 of his first 3 matches are against 2 of the most well-known people inside the Schmoedown. Match number 2 was against Christian Harloff. Yes. Match number 3 was against Snyder.
Yes.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is Snyder the match where
yes, it was
the war? Like, Yes, like was it?
It was round 2 after their first round where Jason was only got
Yes,
1 point.
he gets War, and he makes one of the funniest lines as being the only one who's actually been in War. I was dying.
It's the best clapback in Schmoedown history.
Yeah,
without a doubt. I want to see.
like he shut Snyder down. But the funny thing was, even though he wasn't gonna take War films, it was just from that jab from Snyder where he's just like the only person. Sure, like Jason he's not afraid of a slice, but it's kind of a situation to where at that time, very early, he kind of got goaded into taking that after he made that jab, because in that match against Snyder, he got only 1 point in War movies and only a 2-point steal against Snyder and Will Smith. So looking at that in the long run, Snyder did benefit from Jason picking War, but even then, without the context, if you just show that clip, it is still a highlight moment of the Schmoedown of just like just the greatest Burns comeback that you would ever see. Like that's one thing that we don't. That's one thing I'm gonna miss mostly, the constant cross chatter. Because even now and then there's competitors that can't take the cross chatter. They say it distracts them, and I can understand from a competitive angle that is, but at the same time, this is a mental sport. If you've been watching the Schmoedown for a long time, you should be prepared to go up against people who are either going to be in depth in character, or they're going to be very, very like smart ass.
Let's go ahead. I want to play this.
Let's do it.
This one.
And it looks like
Look at that wheel.
he is going to
Right?
Wheel.
One of the best. All right.
Wow. You want to go to war with me, Inman? As the only person in this room that's actually been to war, sure.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, look at Snyder's like, I can't deal with this. I can't handle this.
Snyder's coming back from that.
That's an all-timer, dude. Like,
Might have been the best burn in the history of the show.
and
It still is.
And it still
is one of the best clapback
In
moments.
one of the earlier promos, they were like,
yeah.
yeah.
I remember that. But
Yeah.
no, that might be my favorite moment for Jason Inman. As the only one who's actually in this room that's been to war, I'm like, oh shit!
That's what defined him as a competitor, because he wasn't in the Schmoedown for too long before that. He had like a handful, like that Christian match and that Gray Drake debut match. But besides that, like he did the Snyder match and he jumped into Inner Geekdom shortly afterwards.
He was a heavy teams player, that's for sure. But yeah.
And then bang, there he is. Like he gets that clapback on Snyder, what's still one of the biggest personalities in the Schmoedown. He was 5 years ago, and look at him now. He's still one of the biggest personalities. And he had the clapback of the whole era, of the whole freaking Schmoedown 5 years later.
Let me ask you guys a question. I forget. Was that Snyder when he was with Gucci or Roxy?
That was Gucci.
No, that was Gucci. This was Snyder.
Yeah,
when
he doesn't go to
Patriots.
Roxy till almost the end of season 5.
Anarchy. It was Anarchy.
Anarchy was when he went with Roxy.
Okay,
All before that. And I don't even know if he was at Gucci with this match. I don't think they had formed the Patriots yet.
Yeah, this was no. He and JT did form the Patriots because
They weren't with
they weren't with Gucci until like the end of the first Spectacular where they formed.
Okay, so, wow, that was really early. It was Schmoedown.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. 5
Yeah, because after that, because this was Inman's third singles match, and it was also Snyder's third singles match as well. So, because he and JTE formed the Patriots after the whole decision, so they had at least one match under their belt, 1 or 2 matches under their belt. So they were the Patriots before they challenged for the team championships. So this was like very early in Snyder's Snyder's journey with the Patriots, and also very early in Jason's journey as part of Team Trek, because he and Mance, they definitely started having a run earlier on. And from what Ben and I and Brandon have talked about with Mance, Jason was he was the more geek heavy side of that partnership with some knowledge that would save him every now and then.
Yeah. And so then he kind of went on a run of teams and matches with Mance with Trek, Superhero News.
They played 6 Degrees,
ETC.
With the Cameron Diaz slice. That bitch!
I miss that. I wish that would
And
come
then
back.
they get their Jason Inman's one title match in teams and or singles is against Team Patriots. They do pretty well. Trucks down 8-10 after round 1. They get comedies. They check down 5 of the 6 times. They go perfect in that round, but they went multiple choice 5 out of the 6 questions. So not
they
as
were able
much.
to steal 2 points from the Patriots off of their 70s slice, so that did save them.
Yes, they did get 2 steals on multiple choice in 70s. They get the betting round question. So it's still close there, but the speed round is where the Patriots started to pull away. They didn't gain. Trek didn't gain any ground in the speed round because they got one and then they missed one.
Yep.
Yes. This is a big one. I'm so close.
Oh,
to that.
without a doubt, yeah. That was their 1-pointer. And honestly, if Jason had, because they missed that 1-pointer in Pixar, then they get their 3-pointer in Bond, that 5-pointer in Fantasy Sci-Fi, which overturned it back to the Patriots. And if the Patriots had gotten that 5-pointer, match would have been over. If Jason had gotten that 1-pointer, they would have been the new champions.
Oh my God!
But got to sudden death.
I believe this was their second defense for the Patriots. So this was early on.
Awfully early, yeah.
Sorry about that. My dog needed to take him out.
That's all right.
No,
they beat the Patriots. Beat.
Oh, that's what you meant by dog.
Yeah.
He was calling me a dog. Yeah, and
I mean, Chris, you my dog, man. I love you, like my brother.
That's what I
meant.
But no, that Patriot, like they actually played pretty well against the Patriots. Again, this was early on. Patriots. They end up losing to sudden death. The only person that got the one sudden death question was Little Evil JTE, Josh the Engineer.
Jete.
Yeah, if I remember that sudden death match, that was completely different. It was like they had to hit buzzards because the first time, it was
that was so weird. Like you get asked a question, if you get it like buzzer. If you get it right, then you're asked another question.
Yeah, that didn't work to make sure because at first they hit the buzzer. I think JT gets a question and he gets it right, but then they get their second, they miss. It went back to the buzzers to once again. I think Snyder was the one that buzzed in and got the speed, but they got that buzzer, and then JT got that final one to secure their victory.
Yeah, so it's still so odd going back to season 3 and 4 and just the structure and the game of the Schmoedown.
It was weird.
So different than what we're used to here. It really, for me, the current era of the Schmoedown is like the last half of season 4. The beginning of season 4 still partially the same to season 3. But then his next match is that IG 5-way with Boyd, Rudnick, Cushing, and Johns. He does lose that match.
Only by getting that punch choice. If he did not get that,
yeah. So round 1 only goes 6 questions because Hal literally doesn't get a question right, I believe.
No, he misses so much.
So
talk about doing favors. Hal Rudnick did some favors for Christian Harlow. Hey, can you come in? I guess.
Because he's like, I don't have any Inner Geekdom players. Literally had none. Round 2 is the same as round 1. They just ask more questions. But he ends up losing that match to he gets eliminated. And then Rachel and Jeremy do the final round, which is a actual speed round. So Johns ends up winning that match. His next match is a teams match. Goes on another. Yep. He then goes on another run of teams matches. Trek, Cinema Blend, and my favorite Team Trek Jason Inman match against Team Action.
Let's go!
Mainly for the pre-match. Holy shit. When I rewatched that this week, I was fucking dying with those pre-match.
I watched that match before I came on here.
Dude, it's literally I said this on Twitter this week for this match. Any rookies that want to know how to play a pretty much perfect character match, watch that match.
All 4 of them were on it. All 4 of them were in it.
So much better.
You could tell that
on each other like crazy.
Yeah, you could tell Mance and Inman were getting frustrated because they started to basically do what Andrew and Ben were doing in round 2. They were they got inside their head, like with that, like when when Guy and Bateman were basically doing the Mance voice in the pre-match promos, Mance wasn't happy. Christian says it in the broadcast. Mance was not happy with how they
Like, even though he was smiling in the match, but you can still see like it's not like full. Like he's giving like he's trying to mask like his frustration though. Like he's trying to say, "Oh no, I get the joke. I'm involved in this." But yeah, I mean, because look, to be honest, even after round one, they do a pretty good job keeping up with Team Action. I mean, they get 9 points in 80s movies. They're able to steal a point from Action in sci-fi fantasy.
Mance was on it in that second round. Mance was on it.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's just in round 3 they missed all of their questions.
They knew each other's questions. That was the craziest part.
That
too.
sucks so badly. Just seeing the look on Mance's face when Inman got that Disney question, and then seeing the look on Inman's face when Mance got that Jennifer Lawrence question. Like, oh my God, it was just
like, see, that is one of the most hard things to do in teams is decide who's taking the 2, who's taking the 3, and the fact that you don't know what the 3 is. It's a really we've seen so many matches where the wrong person answers the wrong question. Like if they knew if they knew after picking their 3 numbers what the 3 numbers corresponded to, obviously they would probably choose the stronger competitor.
The whole Schmoedown history has changed at that point.
Yeah,
and they get to plan out what question they get to do individually without it being up to like.
It's one of the great things about the Schmoedown is there's so much chance involved, so much luck. Like literally spinning the wheel is all luck, unless you're the type of person that like literally studied. All right, if I put this much effort into it, maybe I can land on this wheel slide.
Exactly.
You can't do that right now because everything's online, so you're not spinning an actual wheel.
And I'm just saying, even then with online matches, it is still falling on that luck. Just hoping that the wheel is hoping that the categories you get at least you're knowledgeable in at least 70 or 80% of those categories that you're going to be blessed with. And even if you do land on a strength, hopefully that you're lucky enough that the questions are movies that you have seen in that category. Because last season proved getting your strength means nothing anymore. Because I've seen not many people have gone perfect in getting their strengths in season 7. So it definitely shows you that regardless if around digital wheel or physical wheel, the whole old Schmoedown ideal of getting your strengths and weaknesses no longer apply. Literally anything will take you down. And it's definitely shown in, of course, the best example was Team Trek going up against World's Finest. I mean, sure, they were not great in Oscar movies, but even then, it was still a dominating match with Team Trek. And it was Inman fresh, just fresh as Inner Geekdom champion after his defense against Donica. So it was kind of like him and Mance. They wanted to make that comeback run in teams, and they thought them going against Zipper and Winston's World Finest was going to be like their road back. But once they got those Oscar questions, man, it was just that's when the fall started to happen because World's Finest stole 2 points from them. They got no steals when World's Finest got rom-coms. Then it fell down to their 5-pointer in that 3rd round in Oscar questions once again. It's Mance being that the critic. Oscar movies you think it benefit him, but they just didn't know it, and it's led to World's Finest winning, and then that was it for Trek. Like they couldn't come back.
That's so sad that they went out like that. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like when I was researching all this stuff for Inman, like they were. Like that was like upset of the year for World's Finest, and it was nominated that year. And I'm like, damn, like that's so crazy. And then we never saw Trek ever again.
But we do have this parent. Zipper is on swag now, so
they're coming back, baby.
Well, first of all, Winston's not competing.
No.
So
and Christian said we haven't seen the end of the Winston and Zipper Civil War going into this season.
The promos are going to be very interesting.
Going to pick that up.
So
it's
just how is that going to work? Because are managers allowed to compete?
No.
I think you're just going to see. I think you're just going to see a manager and their competitor butt heads a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes sense because managers can't compete there. But after that team action match, they were not in teams for a while. His next match was that basically 5-way play-in match for Ultimate Schmoedown for that season. So Man, Stewberry, Inman, Burnett, and Bateman. Inman ends up winning.
Oh, Inman won?
Yes,
Yeah,
I didn't catch that one.
Inman won that match.
He beat Ben Bateman.
This
Bateman was super shitty.
This is Bateman's first singles match, by the way.
Yes. This is his first singles match. Bateman was super shitty, and this is when he decided he was going to take it seriously.
Well, it was kind of funny though, because Ben actually was tied with Inman at the end of that first round.
What I mean by super shitty is Ben was just had a shitty attitude afterwards. He just had the shitty attitude afterwards, and that's when he's like, "All right, I'm taking this seriously, and I'm not. It's not about the character work anymore. It's about the gameplay."
Yeah.
What's weird is Inman should not have won this match. He missed his 2 and his 3, but he gets his 5.
Yeah, and it scores and soundtracks, no less.
Yeah, of course. Of course, it scores and soundtracks. So
go back
then,
to Trek team action match, by the way. Buck, you mentioned the character work between all 4 of them. The match was good. Like the characters were great, but not only was it like the beginning of the fall for Team Trek, but it was like the rise of Team Action. They were killing it at the time, and
they were
on fire.
At this time, Guy was the better player between the two. Guy was the better player than Bateman at this time. This is when Team Action went through the entire...
I would disagree with that, but okay. I've never thought Guy was the better player.
I mean, if you look at some of their earlier matches against the Night Sisters and the Nerds Watch, Guy really was the stronger player because Ben had missed some big questions in those first 2 matches. I mean, sure, they won. They beat the Night Sisters by TKO, but then they went to sudden death against the Nerds Watch only by missing a speed round question that I believe Ken was the only one who got right, was what guaranteed the Nerds Watch victory over Team Action, honestly. But even then, but looking at that, Team Action were true megastars. Not just their promos, their entrances. Every entrance was something different.
Yes.
And that entrance against Trek, them coming out mocking with the phasers and with the Vulcan symbols, like that got
like, come on, it's so good. Action was on fire. And Matt, to go back to what you said, Bateman became the better player when he lost to Inman in singles. That's where it was like Bateman became the better player from that point forward.
That's when he started to okay, I need to take this seriously. Like I think at that point he cared a lot more about character than the actual trivia.
And that's why Guy was like the prodigal son. Like Christian put all the hype into Guy out of the 2 of them.
Because he's the best character that we've ever had in the Schmoedown. I'm saying character. Because I agree with Christian. He's the best character the Schmoedown has ever had. Maybe not the best heel, but definitely the best character.
No, he's the best heel. I will forever say he's the best heel.
Oh, really?
Better than Roka?
Roka's always been a tweener to me.
I would say, no. I can't bring myself to say it now for some reason. But I used to be on from the rooftops like Guy is a better heel than Roka because I like the promos more.
I guess I'm a little biased since I'm a general. So
I was just about to say I'm not a general, but I'm a John Roka fan, and I have no issue saying that Roka's a tweener.
I'm not talking about. Yeah, I will go on a tangent about John Roka.
Yeah, my Action Army patron.
I like that, Brian. Nice, the GOAT with the H. Yes,
greatest heel of all time.
He
beat the GOAT. He actually beat the GOAT. With that is most to me. That's the best played match of all time.
But the setup to that month-long setup is what even made that heel work even better.
Yeah, I think Mara was not expecting what he got in that match. Like, he was not happy with Christian after that match.
Well, that was the first match. That was the first match after the 5 Horsemen reveal, right?
Yeah.
Correct. That was
And-
Merle's first match after.
And see, we keep
yeah.
getting on these tangents, but at the same time, we're getting on these tangents because of the impact that Jason Inman has had on this league.
A little ripple effect, honestly.
Exactly.
Like you said, Matt, his match after Bateman lost to Inman, Ben got more serious. And even then, after Inman's constant losses in singles and in teams, when the moment IG came up, he knew that was the exact league he wanted to be a part of. And the biggest, and one of the biggest highlights we kind of overlooked was his motivation for IG. Because when Navarro was going up against Burnett, Inman interrupted before the match.
Yes.
Saying he didn't get a chance to play a spectacular to qualify. He wanted a 3-way match. Robert
Right
Piper
there.
said, "No, you go back. You wait in the back, and you earn your chance to play." That lit a fire under Inman because he may have lost that 5-way, but even then, that once again got him more focused to where he won a 4-way match. No, he won against Emma Fyfe to qualify for a 4-way match to play for the #1 contendership. And it was like, look, and despite Inman's fire as a competitor, him as just an overall person, a personality in the Schmoedown, one of the most respectable people you ever come across. He was in his post interviews. He's always respectful to his opponents, especially after he had won against Emma Fyfe. Emma was because Ben and Brandon and I talked about Fyfe before we got to before Brienne, and when Emma was down on herself in that match, Jason just came in, crashed the interview, and told her and really not only showed support, but showed.
I think what had happened is some match prior, the comments were being a little rude to her, so she was probably feeling bad because she knew she didn't play the best in this match. That comments would be rude to her again. But I did like what Jason did in that match. Came up to her, just kind of was trying to cheer her up. I was so surprised by this too. I was like, Rachel. It's just that movie's so bad. So bad.
Kevin was like a fucking black mark on the early IG league. Like a lot of people missed on that movie.
No one wanted it. No one wanted
it. It's like the worst DC movie.
That's the one movie people refuse to study.
Like you can make excuses for certain DC movies. Like I can take some enjoyment out of watching Steel or Jonah Hex, but Catwoman is just God. Like it's a little chore to watch.
Hold on. Let me tell you a what if scenario right now. What if Inman continued on the 5 horsemen path?
I think
he had the one match, right? He had the one match.
He had the one match
Mara.
where he lost to Mara, and then he had to take a break.
He showed up at Spectacular 3 to support Roca and a few others. To support Roca, but he was gone after. He didn't appear again. But
he had some at-home stuff to take care of.
No, I know that, but if he continued, where do you think he would be right now?
I think because in this hypothetical, I think he would have picked up studying like some people have. Yeah. I think you'd see him right up there being talked about with a Cushing, with how we're starting to talk about Chandru.
Yeah.
And here's one of the funny things is I think after when Mara beat him, Christian, of course, Kalinowski interrupts and says he's going to challenge Mara at the Spectacular. Christian did originally plan to have at least a #1 title set where it was going to be Rachel versus Mike. The winner faced Inman to determine who played Mara.
Right.
But then, of course, scheduling issues fell through with Rachel and Jason to where Mike got the shot. But if we were going to do a what-if, let's say next season, we probably could have seen maybe Rachel and Inman play each other to determine who plays against Mike Kalinowski for that championship. Then we would have gotten our Inman versus Rachel match. Mm-hmm. That would have been awesome to watch. And who knows? Maybe he could have continued with. Maybe he could have got back in touch with Mance to do a Team Trek again for season 6.
Inman leaving Inner Geekdom was almost like it was a sign of the times, and it was a change in the Inner Geekdom era, because Inman represents the Inner Geekdom that had competitors like Navarro, Burnett, John, all them guys.
From the pegs, not the wheel.
That's the whole premise of Spin from the Reel, baby. Come on now.
I know. It's so great about it.
That wheel broke twice. Inman was trying to spin again. The DC slice fell
That's
off.
why
Then
when
when
we
Mark,
watched this match, I was laughing so hard. I'm like, oh, we're gonna spin from the reel and discuss this.
and low-key, like, so shout out to Jason Inman. You're the reason our show exists. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jason. But
Well, you're the reason the name for our show exists.
yes, like, holy God. But no,
and that was funny too, because that early season 4, so many competitors kept spinning from those pegs. It was till finally that wheel got so much punishment. I loved how Christian, he kept saying it, and then that live show is an example why you don't spin from the damn pegs.
Yep. But
see,
Don't worry about that right now.
But yeah, I felt like, because when Chris and I were coming up with the name, it was just like, what's something that's said in the Schmoedown all the time that we can get real in? I'm like, wait, spin from the wheel. Let's just call it spin from the reel, because a reel looks like a wheel anyway. She's like, yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And Jason Inman, he's probably the most criminal in regards to the wheel anyway, because him and the wheel have definitely had their spats over the years.
Oh yeah, that wheel has never prospered him in any division, singles, teams, and intergeekdom. I mean, if you look at the wheel slice he constantly kept getting, the slice he got the most in his as champion was Star Wars. And he has, I'm not saying he's not great in Star Wars, but it was clear at that time the questions were just, like, even in this match, the questions in Star Wars he got. I mean, of course, my favorite was in the post-interview, he says, like, what the hell? One of the last Star Wars questions he got in round 2 was, what is the color to designate a commander in the battle droids? Of course, he went to multiple choice and he got it right. But then he speaks about it in the post-interview, and he goes, who the hell knows what color does a battle droid leader get? Someone from the crowd yells out yellow, and he's like, yeah, I know that now because I got it right. And then, of course, his best friend is like, oh, like, fuck you. Like, Inman wasn't that kind of guy who took things personally, but when you see him remark to people, people knew that he was just fucking, he was joshing around with you.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, Ben, about what would happen if Inman stayed, and if he didn't have the stuff at home, he stayed with the horseman and did all the crazy stuff. I would have loved to see heel-ish Inman if we ever got it. Like, I'm not saying like it would have been good or if he would have done bad at it, but seeing the commitment that Jason Inman was willing to do, and especially with Intergeekdom at the time, the only real heel you had was Mike. Like, everybody else was pulling like we're just ourselves or we're likable. Or both.
You know,
Real quick, pulling that weird heel, not heel thing.
Like an Intergeekdom.
Intergeekdom, yeah.
Yeah, it was just Mike.
No. We had Donica, but Donica just...
Donica did not deserve to be in that championship match. He was 2-0. I'm sorry, you shouldn't be in a championship match.
But at the same time, that was still when Intergeekdom was growing.
Yeah, that was way before we got the tournament set up, when they had those 2 5-ways. And yeah, that match against Donica, God, yeah. After that third round, Donica really started to go down because it was a good competitive match.
That match exposed Donica.
If I remember correctly, he never played again after that match.
Well, no, he played again. He played 2 more times. He played against Sean Gerber during the tournament. Then he played against Kalinowski and lost by a knockout or a TKO. Then he never came back. Because I think he ended up getting a job which had required him to move out of California, so it just couldn't require him to.
And a lot of people have been, like, a lot of people want him to come back since we're doing it online. But I think he said no, I'm done. That's a different part of my life. So.
Mark Donica had so much going for him, like going with the Den, aligning himself with Gucci, and he had a great character. I really liked the Mark Donica character. In hindsight, I hated him then because he's a good heel, but now I'm like, Mark Donica's a good character.
Mark Donica walked so Kevin Smets could run.
Yes.
And also the relationship, the him being paired with Ken Knapsack was also a great teaser to seeing Knapsack being paired with Kalinowski and Chance during the early years of Corruption, though.
And to Matt's point, it was like seeing Kaiser and Smets before we got Kaiser and Smets.
Yeah.
Can you see what would you say if Inman ended up on Corruption?
I don't think it would have been possible personally for me, but it's a fun notion to think about. Like, would he and Mike have gotten along with each other if it was just him? Because Inman did play teams. Let's say Inman got thrown into Anarchy, and he and Mike actually got paired off instead of him and Chance. How interesting was that combination?
I'm sorry, I'm forbidden to talk about Mike and Chance.
So,
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Think
First
about
of all, no. Okay, I want to talk about this here. This was not on Matt. This was on Eric Frederick.
okay.
I'll
Here
freaking
you
call
go.
him out here.
Look, I mean,
Matt didn't do anything wrong. On
doing a show with Matt every week, I'm tired of Matt's blatant disrespect to me as a fan of Mike and Chance. So, like, Matt,
He didn't say. I'm sorry. He is a Schmoedown media personality. He can say whatever he wants about them in the Schmoedown. He didn't say anything about them.
He knows I'm joshing him.
I know.
But
I mean, it's not like he's insulting them outside of the Schmoedown.
Yeah, he's not insulting either person.
Yeah, it's just the characters of them. Because I'm gonna be honest, during their early years, I got sick and tired of Mike and Chance. I hated seeing these guys on, mainly because the arrogance they always had on screen. I was at the live event in San Diego when Mike won. I was pissed that he won the match, but then when it was over, I still showed him. I still gave him my respect. It was just kind of situations like I wanted Rachel to remain undefeated in beating Mike instead of Mike beating her.
But isn't that a sign of a great heel if you hate somebody like that?
It would be, yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why heels work. You don't want to see them win. It's not like, it's not like the whole situation when it comes with, I hate you, but I kind of want to be like you. I love to hate you. No, you hate them because
I think the term heel is not the same in the Schmoedown as it is in
wrestling.
Wrestling.
Facts.
Like, I know that's what the point of a heel is for you to hate them, but some of people's favorite heels, Shannon, Kalinowski, Guy, Roca, people love them, but they're heels. But I'm like, you're not supposed to like Chandru is the one true heel that the Schmoedown has had in a while. I think Roca in the early seasons was that heel. I don't think it is so much anymore because everyone knows Roca. So
and Roca wants to go back to being that heel. It seems like
I want to see it too because I want someone to hate.
I would go as far as saying that heel word. It's not even a sense of pro wrestling now. It's in the sense of pro wrestling and what it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Where they'd go out there and when they would win, people would hate it. But when they'd have belts and the babyface would beat them, it was like a celebration where we're out here like, oh yes, we're toppling the giant that is whoever heel it was. So if it is Mike, if it is Chance or whoever it is, then yes, then I get it, the heel aspect. And just to say something as Matt's co-host that does Spin from the Rail every single week, Matt doesn't disrespect anybody. And his words can be taken out of context if you just clip them out, but he means well. He gives a shit.
Yeah.
He gives a shit. So I'll as much as I try to call him out for hurting my feelings every single week, which he still does. But
I provide my valid points behind it. That's the thing. If I just
he's not attacking people's characters. He's not attacking people's persons. It's their character. Which
character on the show. Let's put it that way. Character on the show.
On the show.
And it's unfortunate people lose track of. It's unfortunate thing people do lose track of because it's easy to see someone make a comment towards one of your favorite Schmoedown players, and then of course, guess what? 5 or 4 replies to that comment will be like, "Oh, are you going to expand on this?" Or is the meaning is like, "Oh, you suck," that kind of situation.
Right.
But even still, let's get back. Let's turn this around.
Yeah, we were getting there right towards the end of Inman.
We're right there. So yeah, he has.
But his
so he initially wins the belt against Hector Navarro, where he has a really good match.
Right? It's a great match.
He misses 3 in round 1, misses a multiple choice in round 2. Gets 3 points in the betting round.
For spinner's choice.
Yeah. And then he only has to answer 1 question in round 5. Star Trek question. Shocker. So then he takes the belt from Navarro.
I do want to point out the speed round was definitely fun to watch, though, because even though he and Navarro got 2 apiece, but that 4th question, that Star Wars question with Mark Rowling in the middle, was hilarious.
None of them wanted to answer because they're like, we're not
how many
sure.
languages can C-3PO speak? And then Mike was, "Oh, come on, guys!" The timing was just so good, and it happened again in his match against Mara. And when they got a speed round question on Harry Potter, Like, what was the name of Neville's toad? Well, Neville's toad or his frog. They didn't know it, and it was like.
And Mara said as soon as the answer was said, "Oh, that's what I thought it was." But I'm like, with the speed round, especially with the buzzers, if you don't know, don't say anything.
Yep.
Right.
I mean, it's nice
Especially-
to on them if they refuse to answer, but at the same time, it's a smart play because you don't want to risk losing a point. And what's worse, you'll depending on what's the point differential. Let's say you're up 3 points into the speed round, and then all of a sudden you miss 2, but then all of a sudden you buzz on a genre but you're not sure of the question. It's safe to say is like risk losing nothing, and instead of trying to instead of dwindling your whatever lead you had even more.
That Navarro Inman title match, it was spectacular that year.
Yes, and he had on the Captain Riker shirt. I love that.
Yeah.
The entire outfit, not the shirt. He had on the full costume.
That's
Go ahead.
No, it's like that's what Inner Geekdom was. Like, that's the ultimate OG Inner Geekdom match in between two of the best competitors at the time with Navarro and Inman, and Inman came out on top. And I mean, that Inner Geekdom belt, by the way, just so we can talk about the Inner Geekdom belt for a second.
I love the Inner Geekdom belt.
That belt rolls. It's the best belt they've ever had.
Yeah. I love that old belt, and it was more of like in a fantasy land. If I ever got to play in the Schmoedown in the IG division, I'd win to get that old belt back.
You retire the belt.
I'd unretire the belt. I do what the New Day did when Kofi Kingston won: get the old belt back and screw the new design.
Like, I love your gimmick belt, but I want this belt, the OG back. Like that's where the money's at.
Yeah, Matt was literally watching this before we went live. This was so hard.
That one,
that's a toughie, dude.
What bottles of wine did Bilbo have left in his home? I'm like,
what the fuck? That's literally like I sat there. I was talking with Buck. I'm like, I forgot how fucked this 5-pointer was.
And that was the passing of the torch. That match was the passing of the torch into the new Inner Geekdom from Inman.
Yes. Yeah, that really what it was.
But even then, the shift was changing in that match in the third round when Mara. The second round. I mean, the point. It was a very even match between 1-1. But then Mara gets movie release dates, nails every question, only goes to multiple choice once, and then gets Star Wars. He has to go to multiple choice a lot, and only gets 6 points. And then the bending round came where Mara, when she spun the wheel, and then a peg flies off, she gets Middle Earth, and then it's just like. He bets 2 points, he gets it wrong. She bets 2 points, and she gets the answer right. And then that speed round came to where Inman just had to try to get as many points to keep in order to make it up. But yeah, he gets. And it's funny, his last 2 questions in round 3 were all Lord of the Rings. I mean, of course, his 3-pointer was a who said it, but it was still in Lord of the Rings, and he gets it correct. And then the old vineyard question, and it's sad too because I would have loved because it's kind of funny because. Looking at his defenses, well, Navarro and Donica, he never really got pushed to his 5-pointer. He only had to answer a 2-pointer, and that was it. Like
By the way, that Donica match, I think is his best played match. He missed one question the entire match.
Yep.
One question, and it was a Star Wars question.
Oof.
That was it. Now he did check down twice. He did check down twice in round 2. But he got 4 of the 5 speed questions.
Yeah, that pure domination, and even then he got
won by TKO. So yeah, I would have to say that is his best played match of his entire career.
Yeah,
I could rock with that because it's either that. I mean, that one or if we're want to get technical, that Trek title match with Patriots. Like, if I had to pick 2 matches to sum up Jason Inman's Schmoedown career, those are the 2 I would pick. The one against Donica, and that title. You had to include that title match.
Yeah.
The only way I don't say that is round 1. He misses question 5, 6, 7, and 8 in round 1. That's why
Here's the thing, but that's why that's why I would agree with Chris. Despite a poor round 1, he came back and won it.
Yeah.
And Mance, although Mance was the better player of the 2 in singles, Mance always I always appreciated the rapport with each other, and I bet like y'all went and explored it more in the Mance episodes y'all did. But like Mance was so like uplifting, and he loved Jason Inman. He
If
still
Jason
does.
gets this one right, they win. Even with that bad round one, if he gets this,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the 2-pointer that he missed, and that was, if he gets that is the difference in the match.
And for better or for worse, that's another reason why it should be considered to be one of his quintessential matches.
Yes.
Because that challenge, that question, that answer was like, holy shit. Because I remember the Eva thing. I was like, oh, that's a moment that sticks out in my brain from that part of the Schmoedown. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's this. And I was with Inman. And they're like, nope, that ain't it. It's like, wait, what? And yeah, it was like, it sticks out and that wins them the match. And they beat the Patriots. And just to think, hey, remember when Team Trek beat the Patriots? Like, that'd be one hell of a sentence to say now in the Schmoedown.
If Christian is still considering what if matches, this would be interesting. What would have happened to Team Trek and Team Patriots had Jason gotten that question right?
I think that's. I remember. Wait, the Patriots' next offense was against top 10, or if it was against the Wolves of Steel.
Hold on, Patriots.
But even then, I mean, just looking at these what-if matches, I mean, another great performance Jason Inman did was that 4-way against Coy, Jay, and Cushing, because he went perfect in round one. Only
Wolves
missed
of Steel.
Wolves of Steel
Wolves of Steel was that second offense.
But even then, I still think a good what-if match would have been, even if Trex did win, I would have loved to have seen Trek versus top 10, because they were trying so hard to get a Mance Roca 3. If we had gotten that in a team match, that would have been fantastic.
That would have been awesome. Yeah, that would have been freaking Team Trek in top 10. And top 10's a whole damn. Talk about like that sums up that era of the Schmoedown. Top 10 is another one of those teams that does that. And another quick thing that I realized when doing research for this episode, a lot of people were named Team This.
Yeah, they were, weren't they?
Team Heroes, Team.
It's like it's like if Matt and I ran it, we'd be Team Real. It's like, what kind of?
If it was in seasons 3 and 4, yes. Now I'm glad that Christian's gotten a little bit more creative with the team names.
Yeah,
we would just be Spin from the Real now.
yeah.
Like,
But at the time, you'd be like Team Spin or some shit. Like it's like, what Team Spin? Even though I'd be cool with Team Spin, 1000%. But Team Trek, they definitely, like, you can't tell the oral history of the teams division in the movie trivia Schmoedown without mentioning Team Trek by name. Yeah. And that's how I know that you made it and that you have a distinct presence in the Schmoedown. You can do the same with Inman.
Honestly, if you're
what happened?
His computer has been doing that. Like like.
You all right, Matt? You good?
Okay. Are you back, Matt?
I'm back to normal now. Yes, I'm back to normal now. My computer was glitching out for a minute. Sometimes it just happens like a 1 minute interval. Great. No, honestly, if you say that your career went past Jason Inman at one point in time, that's how you know you had a great career.
Yeah. No, like really, that's what it is. Like and Inman, and it's crazy that we have to put it out loud and say it out loud for us to really realize it. But a lot of folks had their careers go through Inman, and now look at where they're at now. Like whether it's a Bateman or a Kanopik or
Guy,
Cushing,
Snyder.
Oh no, he never played
Snyder,
exactly. Even Roca too, because when Inman went up against Roca, this was Roca after a point in his career to where he and Matt had suffered a humiliating loss against the Patriots, and to where Roca was trying to refocus himself.
That was the ultimate Schmoedown that year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the ultimate Schmoedown. I mean, Roca. Yeah, the ultimate Schmoedown tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the question for everyone here: if Jason Inman ever came back to the Schmoedown now, what faction do you think he would work best on?
Merch.
I want to be different. You
want to be different, but you agree with the first one. That's the thing. Just be honest.
I actually think he would. And I think this is my bias is coming in. I
Oh.
think he would benefit with Roxy at the Stars.
Oh, that's another good one.
Because I mean, I like Roxy, but after looking at her draft, she may got some like good moderate rookies for IG, but Inman, he's the veteran IG player that I think would be the in Trek terms the number one on in the faction. He would be the captain to help lead them, to help really work with rookies in IG.
You know what? I take mine back. I want to see him on the exchange with Wonka.
Really, the exchange.
Yeah. I want to see him with Wonka and JTE.
Now, do I think it's going to happen? No.
No,
I
not.
thought it was a interesting thing to think about.
I
still think he'd be probably a top tier IG player.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
If Inman were to come back and be in a faction, like, yes, the Mercs make sense, and I would go as far as saying like the exchange can make sense, a lot of sense too. I'd pick the suspects though. Like I like there's a lot of old school feel with the suspects, not only like with Sam, Ethan, and McQueenie at the top.
Yeah.
But in regards to inner geekdom, like Amaru, like yeah, he's a rook and he's obviously proven himself in the fan leagues. But in regards to inner geekdom, like what else do they got off the top of the head?
I don't know how
Having a veteran inner geekdom presence would be really dope on the suspects.
You mean?
Zipper.
I think Sam thinks that
Winston.
inner geekdom is not an important division in the Schmoedown, because the last 2 seasons he's not really cared about drafting a decent IG player. Again, we don't know if he would have drafted Mara if she was there. Like, we're never gonna know because Kaiser took her.
Yeah, he got her first.
Like, he only has 2 IG players, Moses and Jacob.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't see Inman working with Sam all that well. I don't know why. I just don't see their personalities working together.
And I totally see that, like they're like, especially like their characters, especially if you take them from when they were hot. I don't know how they would mesh, but I like Inman now, like especially how the Schmoedown has evolved since when Inman was playing. Like it's nowhere near the same sport, nowhere near it.
No.
Yeah.
And I like to think that, I like to think that Inman would like not only learn like the gameplay aspect from the people at the top in Ethan, LSM, and from McQueenie, but he's already a great inner geekdom player, and he's probably one of the better ones if he were to come back now. He'd probably top 5, maybe, hopefully. But I think him with the suspects, it would make sense. Plus, they need that vet presence in inner geekdom. Amaru and Jacob wouldn't have been like they're both rooks. So I would like to see how that would pan out.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's why suspects, stars. That's why I think those factors would work. Because the fact that they mostly have rookie IG players. I mean, sure, Roxy has Janine and Brandon as there, but they're not as experienced as Inman is. That's why I think that Inman did join the Stars. Not only would he have great supporting blocks.
Let's just hope Hannah is studying the Green Hornet. Let's just hope.
One thing I would say, I'm just gonna say one thing. Hannah needs to not go on that Green Hornet tirade because as someone in the fan leagues, there are so many more movies that's thrown into geek that he needs to look up his research. Why don't you look up the movie Condor Man? That was a Disney-produced movie that actually got spun off into a comic series. You can look up movies like American Splendor. That's about that's an autobiography of a fucking comic book artist turning his whole life into a comic book series. Green Hornet. If his biggest thing about Green Hornet was the fact that it was a radio show that went to television, good fucking luck, because that's what most.
He should have just answered the question and then challenged, but no, he challenged without answering the question. I'm like,
that's what gives me pause about Roxy picking Hannah because of the stupid Green Hornet thing. But if she feels confident on him, I will be okay. His first match is going to say a lot about him if he goes back to IG. But I'm getting off this tirade. But back on Inman. One thing we didn't talk about Inman. The thing that made him great as a nerd. He always came out to play in costume among cosplay. Dressing him as number 1, Riker. Him dressing up as Tom Baker's Doctor Who in the 4-Way. Him dressing up as Captain America at the live show. Him dressing up as Clark Kent Superman in his defense against Donica. That man came dressed to the nines as a cosplayer.
Let's be honest here. Do you think he set the way for somebody like a Mike? who did continue on that.
Mike
That's great.
Mike took that baton and definitely ran with it.
Yeah, he did.
But Mike only did it when he was like babyface Mike Kalinowski.
Right.
That wasn't the best Mike.
Once he once it became corruption, Mike, yeah, he stopped doing that. He only did it once, and that was in the MCU exhibition, 5-way exhibition.
Jason Inman is probably the geekiest personality Intergeekdom's ever seen. Because,
Exactly.
like, not only like comic book writer, he was on DC All Access when that was a thing. Like he was so enthralled.
That match against Navarro where it looks like they're because it gets to Marvel and they're just like they both are looking at the camera. It's like a cheesy commercial.
No, it was the DCEU. Like Hector says, it's not the DC. No, it would be DC Films franchise. But it's like we're just being, and then Inman just goes, "Oh, we're just being clear for that for our bosses," and then it's just
for our employer.
To our employers. That is fucking awesome.
Like damn. Like Jason Inman, like he was the face of early Intergeekdom, and I would love to see him compete now if he would ever come back and. Like, if he had the proper time to study and not just thrown into a match, I would love to see him see what he can do against, like a Kalinowski now, a Chance Ellison, a Chan Giordano.
If they did another Star Trek exhibition, I think that'd be the only one he'd go ahead and do. He lost last time to Smets, who got second, and then Ethan Irwin actually won that one. I believe that was season 6. Oh yeah, actually, it has to be season 6 because Smets was involved. So I wonder if that will be one of the ones we get this upcoming season for all the Patreon exhibition matches.
I hope.
I hope we get movie release dates again because I want to see Bateman and Mance go at it.
Yes, I need them to duke it out, dude. Oh my god.
I only want a movie release date 1-on-1 with them. I don't need a 5-way movie.
I mean, Sam didn't do that bad in that one. And again, Adam did better than the average competitor in that one. But no, that was between Mance and Bateman the entire time.
Yeah.
It also has default to how that match was structured. It was pretty much Iron Man style, and then until the last 5 minutes, it was nothing but speed rounds. So if we now get a movie release dates match set to the new format for the exhibition matches, I'm pretty sure Sam and Halavic would do so much better in that sense.
Maybe.
The Star Wars Iron Man match, like I talk about the match a lot because it is my favorite match of all time. Like, and
good.
I love how it like that. It was straight like I forget what the time limit was, but it was like 15 minutes of.
I'll talk about the last question. My bad.
Yeah, well, like they did like the regular Iron Man question, like question after question after question, and the last few minutes were like, dang, like just knocking them out.
Last 2 minutes was the
break. They did give them 1 minute breaks though. They did give them 1 minute breaks.
Both the break. Yeah. Like I think that's the Iron Man match to me that it sticks out of my brain, and it was like Knapsack and Whitworth just absolutely brought it for that. And it had one of the best moments with the ending of that match, and that Ken contested forever. That was his character for a while. Him contesting the end of that match. So
yeah, they just didn't have a rule in place for something like that. Where
now they do.
Because it was a brand new format. It was just a brand new. That was the first time I ever did Iron Man.
I think Star Wars is the only one that really. I wouldn't mind seeing maybe an MCU one with Gerber and I don't care who else because Gerber's gonna wipe the floor.
Because Gerber is so fucking knowledgeable in that.
Dude, he destroyed it last year in that MCU exhibition match.
I love that match.
That 5-way with Cushing, Jay, Mike. God, he went perfect completely. Never missed a question. Got so many points and steals. Like you really have to be damn near perfect. Like if there really was an MCU division, Gerber would be the fucking Damon of that division.
That is the only way to probably get Gerber to do actual matches is to bring in a MCU division, which I think once they bring in for Star Wars all of the TV shows, I could see them. Christian seems against the idea of a MCU division, but I would love to see an MCU division.
Likewise.
Right there.
Or just do an MCU free for all like he did for the horror free for all. Test.
I am fine with that as well. A MCU free for all could be pretty cool.
That'd be perfect to get everybody who's just been drafted as an IG comparator to play. Then, even if they're going to be doing a lot of 5-way and 4-way and 3-way matches, an MCU free for all would be great. That way, you don't have to worry about making new questions. Just put some questions in from previous matches or old matches, throw it in. Let's see how these people do, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's something that you don't have to overthink, honestly.
Yeah.
Ben,
This-
you were trying to say something?
I really mind seeing a DC Iron Man match between like Mike and maybe if you could get to Clark Wolf. That would be fun.
that'd be dope too. Like seeing Clark and Mike, like Batman or Superman and Lois Lane, that'd be dope. Seeing them face off in DC stuff. I mean, you could probably throw in. Can you throw Jason in that?
I mean, he did.
Is
work
Clark a big DC fan though?
She did work for DC Daily, and she has.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily.
She's talked about how it's her dream to play Lois Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not just on DC Daily, but she's also done like on her outside stuff with her podcast, and even when she's done like interviews or she's talked to, or when she's just shooting the shit with some of the other people, she does say how much of a love of DC she has. That's why she was so psyched to be part of the DC Universe app, like having a constant show every day, every episode. They talked about DC, either it was comics, the TV shows, or the movies. Like she was 100% so invested into it. That's why it was so sad when of course the app was just they know what the fuck they were doing with that app. So
That's a whole
Same
different
question.
conversation.
It's the same question.
They were like, yeah, people will buy this. It's all superhero content that we only have like 3 original shows for.
Yeah, and you don't have everything DC related. Like you don't have everything, at least in regards to the content. The comics, sure, by all means, go crazy.
No, they I'll say this: they had about 90% of DC content.
Yeah,
that's true. 100%.
And, I mean, plus it's a hard sell just to sell like just the DC thing.
But the only DC content they didn't have was the DC EU stuff. That's it. They had all the direct DVD movies. They had basically every movie that had come out in theaters before the DC EU on there.
And
just, all the cartoons, just everything. Besides DC EU.
dude, I love the DC animated movies. Are so good.
Yeah.
I watched one last night.
Which one?
I watched. I haven't seen it. That's why I watched. It was Justice League: Crisis on Two Earths.
My personal favorite still will never be topped. Under the Red Hood. The original one, not this.
Yeah,
the original one,
I
not
think
this.
that's a lot of
so
people's
ridiculous.
Under the Red Hood is so good.
My favorite, and I've watched it so many times, is the Flashpoint one.
Flashpoint's my number 2.
A good one.
So I've watched it at least 10 times. At least 10 times.
Damn. I've watched of course Crisis on Two Earths, like the one that you just mentioned, Chris. Also, most recently, one I've watched constantly is Justice League versus the Fatal Five, which is a good way of like.
I thought it was Superman versus the Fatal Five.
No. This is Justice League versus Fatal Five. That's Superman versus the Elite, which is another one I have watched consistently. But Justice League versus Fatal Five, that was a good one because it was a great way to give us a glimpse of the Legion of Superheroes while keeping us steady focused on legacy characters. And then the
Fatal Five, I haven't seen it.
Dark Side War. It's not good, but I liked how ballsy they went with that movie, though.
I got 2. One that I rewatch constantly that I think I can say is my favorite with confidence. That's not Under the Red Hood. Is Justice League Doom. That movie.
Justice League War and Justice League Doom are 2 of my favorites as well. Like, okay,
War's
Justice League War, it should have been what the live action Justice League movie should have been. If they could have just literally copied that. I don't care if you don't want to literally that.
Just do it.
If we don't need origin stories, you can just make a Justice League movie, bring these characters together, and then do the origin stories later.
Yep. My second one I do love War too. My second one that I rewatch every so often. It's not the best one, but I do love it. It's Batman Superman Apocalypse. Like
Public Enemies. Public Enemies is also one of my favorites.
Public Enemies is another good one.
Batman and Superman version.
There are so many of these. There are
DC kicks ass at animation. It kicks so much ass.
They absolutely destroy an anime. Like they got like some of their best stories that they've told. I mean, most of these are just comic runs that they made into an animated movie. They're like 70 minutes long. Like they're just over an hour. So it works. But though we could probably talk about this all day.
Yes.
Don't want to go too long.
It's for Jason Inman. That's why. It's why
right.
I
Matt and Chris, where can everyone find you guys online?
I'll go first. You can find me at Watt_Matt. WAT is how you spell Watt. On Twitter. You can find me at WattRealEnt, ENT, on Twitter, and you can find both of us, primarily him though, on the Spin from the Real Twitter, which is just Spin from the Real.
Yes. Follow Spin from the Real on Twitter at Spin from the Real, 2 E's. You can follow me on my personal Twitter, C Anthony Lopez, or on Instagram, C Anthony Lopez with an underscore between the C and the Anthony. We do Spin for the Real every Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. We talk about the latest and greatest in the Schmoedown. It's a good time. It's really good. Last week on the show we had a bunch of rookies. We had Armor Ramones, Jesse Swift, Marie E. Wilson, Thomas Harper, Rick Radish, and
3 of the 4 of them have matches that were scheduled.
Yep.
We got the scoop. I'm sorry. No, but they're friends of the show. They're fantastic, and thank you guys for having us on.
Oh,
It was a blast. Yeah.
and you can watch both of us on Who Are They Real Entertainment on YouTube. So
The whole channel. We're all over the place. Got a bunch of stuff going on.
you got him on Wrestle Real, Real Talk, and Spin from the Real. Me on Spin from the Real and Real Talk. So
Damn right. We keep
All right,
busy.
Ben, where can everyone find you online?
Everyone can find me at Twitter at BenRadio2 and right here with these guys every Saturday.
Ryan?
Yeah, people can definitely find me on Twitter as well, caramel_pain, or you can also, find me on Facebook, Ryan Payne. You can just, and then also, the Twitter score of Mount Schmoedown, which is where you can find all 3 of us. And here every Saturday with the dudes talking Schmoedown, and also I've got like a few other stuff, but it's like they're not all available on like platforms just yet.
Yep, and then you can follow me on Twitter at BrandonBuck88. Follow the show Twitter on Mount Schmoedown. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see y'all next week.